Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. The headline for our month was Sales Are Up, Home Prices Continue to Rise. We're talking about the documents recorded at the registry for the month of May. This is a June show. Our job at the Registry of Deeds is to record all documents related to real estate within the 27 communities of Plymouth County. We scan those documents into images. We create a great index system so people can find them in the future. We microfilm those documents for preservation, and we preserve them all in our system so that people's title to their property is correct. So I'm going to go right to the numbers for the month. The first image you're going to see is of deeds. Deeds are sales of property. So for the month of May, there were 980 deeds recorded at the registry, up from the 755 recorded in April, up from the 8% recorded in May of last year, from the 111 in May of last year. And for 5 months in the calendar year, we're up 2%. Next image you're going to see is of mortgages. Mortgages are usually when people take out money to purchase property, or if they refinance their mortgage to try to get a better rate. Mortgage rates have been bouncing up and all around a little bit, so refinancing has dropped somewhat, but there are 1,872 mortgages recorded in May, more than the 1,507 in April, down 13% compared to the 1,933 of May of 2016, but with 5 months of data, we're down 8% over last year. Mostly that's reflected in refinancing. The next image you're going to see is of foreclosure deeds. A foreclosure deed is when a lender has taken back title from an owner, usually for non-payment. The foreclosure deeds are listed on that chart. There were 49 foreclosure deeds recorded in May, less than the 60 in April, 13% less than the 56 last May. But for the first 5 months of 2017, we're 6% lower than last year, which is a positive sign. The next image you're going to see is of foreclosure notices. Foreclosure notice is the first document we see at the Registry of Deeds that shows someone's in trouble. There were 77 foreclosure notices recorded in May, more than the 65 in April, 20% less than the 96 foreclosure notices in May of last year. Many lenders are getting caught up in the process with homeowners who were delinquent. Many were delayed by lawsuits or changing state laws or regulations. But we're actually getting to a period where foreclosures and foreclosure notices are lower. Many people remember that with the meltdown of 2008, foreclosures were very high in all of the communities in Plymouth County. You can see in the next image the foreclosures and orders of notice by community, that they vary by community. Every single community in Plymouth County has had foreclosure deeds and notices over the years, but particularly Brockton, Plymouth, and Wareham have been the most beset by these issues, as you can see with the month of May. Again, things are getting better out there, and we hope that continues. It's a negative impact on our marketplace. Relative to some stories about the registry, our training room, which we open to the public, closes down for the month of July and August. We had a training session, a full house, on June 7th. It's a great opportunity for anyone that uses real estate in any way to more efficiently search our system. It's about a 2-hour program, free, in our training room in our office in Plymouth at 50 Aubrey Street. Our next training session will be held on Thursday, September 7th at 9 o'clock. But because space is limited, please call to register at 508-830-9290. Please be aware there's a property fraud alert. You can sign up. Anything that gets recorded against your title, you'll get an email. It's a great service. Beware of these deed scams that are out there. Companies like a California company that'll get you a copy of your deed for $83. It's a scam when you can go to one of our satellites and get a copy of your deed for $1 a page. If you're coming into our building, take a look in our entry corridor of the display from the Rochester Historical Society. And we held office hours in East Bridgewater on May 25th and office hours in Duxbury on Thursday, June 22nd. We're going to do something a little more unusual for this show. In the next segment, we're going to talk about a few of our notable land records, and we're going to close out with a segment, because I know a lot of people love the history of Plymouth County, and it is summer, some of our notable records to come. So we'll see you in segment 2. Thank you.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you!
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
Help up the hand.
Ah, there you go.
Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Jane!
Welcome back to the Register's Report. Normally in this segment, we do something educational in nature. We've had surveyors, commercial real estate brokers, and a lot of realtors talking about what's going on in the marketplace. I mean, what is going on in the marketplace is positive generally. As I mentioned earlier, the number of foreclosures are down, sales are up, and the problem that we've mentioned in numerous shows before this is just a very small inventory. A lot of people aren't ready to list their home because it is so difficult to find something that's out there that they're willing to go into because of the shortage of inventory. When properties are listed and open houses are held, there are multiple offers that come in the same day, and we'll pick that up again once we get into our next show, which would be our July show. But for right now, we're just going with some of the things you can do over the course of the summer around Plymouth County, some great historical locations. But first of all, for June, the June has a number of great holidays. Flag Day was June 14th. Father's Day was the 18th. Emancipation Day, the 19th. We just passed the summer solstice on the 21st. I'm going to show a couple great places to visit over the course of the summer, which are part of our Plymouth County Register of Deeds notable land record collection, famous people and places. And one of them you're going to see an image of is Island Grove Park in Abington. Island Grove Park was opened in 1882 when land was transferred from the heirs of Ezekiel Reed for the town of Abington for what is the crown jewel of the town public parks. Island Grove is a great park to visit, a beautiful bridge you cross over to get it, Memorial Bridge, which was a celebration of the town's bicentennial, crosses right over the pond, and Memorial Arch is what you cross under, a very historical archway celebrating Civil War sailors and soldiers. But Island Grove Park is very well known for its meetings and picnics that were held there during the pre-Civil War days. The abolitionists met in Island Grove Park. There was a train that would come down from Boston with hundreds of people that would come to hear the speakers that would come down to speak at Island Grove Park. Among them, William Lloyd Garrison, a very famous abolitionist, and he would present many arguments as to eliminating slavery. And as I said, they'd come down by train, picnic, listen to the speakers. There is a monument located in the middle of the park that is there to celebrate those speakers. I mentioned that the Abington Sons of Union Veterans built the Memorial Arch and the bridge. It was just recently renovated in a great location. Still a great place to come to. Historically, it was an amusement park. It's enjoyed by the residents of Abington for hiking and boating and summer vacation programs, ice fishing during the winter. But in 2002, Island Grove Park was named to the National Register of Historical Places. As I said, a great place to visit in the summer. As is the next image you're going to see, which is Shirtlift Park in Carver. It's the site of Carver's Old Home Day and a host of many community events. The land for Shirtlift Park was donated to the town of Carver by Carlton Shirtlift Francis, a descendant of Carver native Benjamin Shirtlift. It has been a Carver landmark ever since and used again for picnicking, fairs, concerts, and again, most notably, Carver Old Home Day. The first Old Home Day was held in 1901. A millstone is located on the park. There is a monument there, again, to honor Carver veterans of all wars, up to and including the Civil War and the Spanish-American War. It's a great location during Old Home Day. There's normally a road race that is conducted prior to the Old Home Day in July, late July. It brings hundreds of former Carver residents into town who join with current residents in celebrating the town and the road race, as I mentioned. And it's one of the last old-fashioned clam bakes that you'll ever see. And it starts very early in the morning. Volunteers use seaweed, cover it with a tarp, and when they take that tarp off and take out the clams and other things that are there, it's a very interesting thing to see, a vestige of past clam bakes that were held throughout Plymouth County for years. And last, for this particular show of a notable record, is Duxbury Beach. Duxbury Beach is a beautiful white sand, 6-mile-long barrier beach owned by the Duxbury Beach Reservation. It's an ever-shaping natural resource on the Atlantic coast of the South Shore. Access to the beach is provided by either the wooden Powder Point Bridge, built in 1892, or over Gurnett Road. Duxbury's Barrier Beach serves as a recreational, scenic conservation area, and again, a natural breakwater for the towns of Duxbury, Kingston, and Plymouth. Duxbury Beach and its adjacent salt marshes continue to be a home for countless species of birds and wildlife, and it's gone through many transitions, including some issues when potential developers were trying to build it out for homes, but through continued vigilance, the owners and the residents of Duxbury's have preserved that, and it continues to be one of Plymouth County's most wonderful places. So we're going to transition to our final segment, when I'm going to be talking about some future notable land records. I thought that would be an interesting thing to start off our summer with. And so we'll see you in the next segment. Thank you.
Did you know parking over tall, dry grass can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. And in my previous segment of this show, I talked about many of the things that we do at the registry, including our office hours that we do amongst the communities of Plymouth County. We recently were in Duxbury Town Hall last week. Many times as I travel around Plymouth County, people not only talk about deeds and mortgages and what's going on in the real estate market, but they know that we are the treasure trove of history throughout Plymouth County. Not only do our regular records have that, we also have on the second floor of the Registry of Deeds a temperature humidity controlled vault that controls the colonial records, the handwritings of the colonists through court decisions and other decisions by the colonists relative to the foundation of America, whether it be the first vote to establish trial by jury, whether it be the transition from common ownership from the original decision of the colonists to private property rights, and many other things. I had a reporter in today from the old Colony Memorial looking at documents relative to a trial in 1648 that a jury of colonists convicted a colonist who had murdered a local native. Never would have thought in the minds of those at the time that they would have convicted a colonist of murder of a native person, but they did that and they hung them. That was a very important decision because it established peace between the colonists and the native people that they were working with for protection of both of them. And that'll be a story and an example of some of the history that we have in our records. We do this notable land record collection, famous people and places that I talked about a few of them recently. So I decided to give you a preview of some of the ones that are upcoming over the course of the year. We're coming to an end of our fiscal year at the Registry of Deeds, and certainly these are all works in progress. And as I go around to the towns with office visits and others along the way, the local historical commissions and people that are interested in county history are very fascinated by these things and are always coming up with ideas to do. So one of our other ones pending, and I'll show you a little bit of what we do. We find a connected deed for these documents, and then we do a little story about them. This particular one will be going up soon. It is a story of Dewey Stone. Dewey Stone was an individual that lived in the city of Brockton. He was an industrialist, a philanthropist, but he assisted in the founding of Israel. He was born in Brockton in 1900 and became a leader in the Brockton and Jewish communities in Brockton. He was a sergeant major in World War I and then graduated from BU. But he had a role in funding the ship Exodus, which was a ship that transferred Holocaust survivors from France to Palestine, and a role in the founding of the State of Israel. Because of his relationship with President Harry Truman and his former business partner, he was able to convince President Truman to influence the United Nations debate over a petition resolution that separated Jewish and Arab states in Palestine. It was a crucial part of the celebration of Israel's creation. Mr. Stone was also a founder of the Weizmann Institute of Science, the Stone Science Building at Boston University, named after him and Judge Harry Stone. And by an example, a local attorney who works in Brockton and lives in Plymouth, Attorney William Sims, whose law office is located in the home of Dewey Stone, brought this forward We worked it. We'll share it on our website. It'll be on display at the Registry of Deeds in Plymouth, and that is how we share some of the history of Plymouth County. I'm going to run through some other ones that are works in progress that I know many of you will recognize and know about. I mentioned earlier when I described Duxbury Beach that we're doing one related to that. The Powder Point Bridge in Duxbury is a very historic, the longest wooden bridge in America. Pilgrim Hall Museum is the oldest continuous museum. It's related to another notable record that we'll be doing down the road of a very famous architect. But Pilgrim Hall Museum is a great place to visit in Plymouth County. We've done one earlier of Samuel Lincoln, and it's up on our website, PlymouthDeeds.org. You can see all our notable records. Benjamin Lincoln was a descendant of Samuel Lincoln, a relation of Abraham Lincoln. Benjamin Lincoln was a very prominent individual from Hingham who was a Civil War general and very well celebrated. Every February 12th or near about, there is a wonderful program run in the Old Ships Church in Hingham that celebrates both Abraham Lincoln's roots, Samuel Lincoln's roots, and Benjamin Lincoln's connection to the town of Hingham. It is run again in Old Ships Church. If you ever have a chance to go to that program, it's great. We're doing something in the near future about the Brockton Central Fire Station. The Brockton Station is associated with a number of electricity firsts in America. Many people know, in one of our notable records was the Thomas Edison location in downtown Brockton, that he experimented with underground electrical lighting, part of the foundation of what we have now in America. And the Brockton Central Fire Station was the first municipal building to actually be wired in America. Very important location. Still in operational fire station, Station 1 in Brockton. Another individual who was born in the town of Halifax and became a very famous architect, Alexander Paris. I mentioned that he had been the designer of Pilgrim Hall Museum. He was also the designer of Quincy Market that you'll see at Faneuil Hall. From a very small town, but impact around the world. Another one that's in progress is the Liberty Tree in Brockton, located on Frederick Douglass Way in downtown Brockton. It was a site on the Underground Railroad. There was a tree there, which has unfortunately come down, but still a marker there where people would meet and be guided as they stop on the Underground Railroad. Later, very famous abolitionists like Frederick Douglass and others would come and have meetings there and speeches to promote abolitionism, the elimination of slavery in America, led in great part to the Civil War, where blacks were freed in America. We have a lot of lighthouses in our collection. Situate Lighthouse, the Army of Two that scared away a British frigate from coming into Situate. We have I Love You Light down in the Minot Lighthouse. We have upcoming lighthouses, Bird Island Light from Marion and others. Ocean Spray was founded in Hanson. We have that coming forward as a notable record. Many people remember the actress Gina Davis, and Gina Davis was born in Wareham. That'll be coming forward as a notable record. The Oliver House in Middleborough, a great industrialist, not only the house, but the Oliver Mill that people pass on Route 44 will be coming forward as a notable record. Another lighthouse, I mentioned we have done a series of lighthouses. The Ned's Point Lighthouse in Mattapoisett is a work in progress coming forward. The old ship meeting house in Hingham, I mentioned that earlier as part of the Lincoln history. That'll be coming forward as a notable land record. And I will say that of the Plymouth County's 27 communities, the only town named after an individual who lived there is the town of Whitman. Whitman was separated off from Abington. It was originally part of Old Abington, separated it off along with Rockland, but Whitman separated it off over a school issue, an argument of when a school separated, and a very well-known person in town, Augustus Whitman, will be displayed. The house is right on Washington Street in Whitman. There's a marker for where the Whitman house was, and the Whitmans donated the land for the Whitman Town Park. The Smith Shipyard will be coming forward in Hanover. Major John Bradford House in Kingston. The Point in Kingston we're continuing to work on with many Kingston historians. George Shiverick Boatyard. The Old Ordinary, which is a pub that was placed in a stopping place in Hingham, formed in 1688. We will keep going. The Nathaniel Thomas Mill, which is located on Route 58 in Hanson, will be coming forward. Sachem Rock, which is located where the East Bridgewater Council on Aging is, a very famous location where many land in Brockton was transferred from Massasoit, a very famous deed for like hose and moose skins, all of the land 7 miles in each direction from a fish weir there. Old Derby Academy in Hingham, Whitman Town Park. Many people know that Frederick Olmsted, the famous landscape architect who designed Central Park in many other locations, branched his company off, and his son took over that landscape architecture firm. So his son was the landscape architect for Whitman. Plymouth County is loaded with historical places. Take advantage of those over the summer. When you go around to other communities, look up the history of Plymouth County. It's the fabric of our community. It's a very, very interesting place. And those are some of the things we try to promote through our land records. So I want to thank Dave Antoine and Ben Alexander for helping me put this show together. By doing this show, not only promote the history of Plymouth County, but share information for what, for most people, is their most valuable asset, their home. And again, thank you to PAC TV for producing this show. And I'll see you next month. Thank you.